This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump is backing Elon Musk's demands and threats to federal employees. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President Trump welcomes French President Macron to the White House for talks on Ukraine and Russia. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The mayor of New York announcing the shutdown of a major migrant shelter.
We saw 7 straight months of decline.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Trump political backer prepares to enter politics. Jennifer King has that.
On Wall Street, a mixed market yesterday, but some big tech names sold off. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A legendary rhythm and blues singer passes, and Lisa Dwyer reports on a DoorDash legal settlement involving drivers' tips. All ahead on America in the Morning. Confusion over the emails sent by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to federal workers to detail what they did last week. Fox News is reporting that the Office of Personnel Management has concerns those emails could be read by who they describe as malign foreign actors, and told federal HR officials that employees won't lose their jobs for not filling out the email. President Trump has weighed in on the DOGE request. A lawsuit has been filed against the government over the issue, as Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports. Some department heads, including Kash Patel at the FBI, have told their workers not to respond.
Musk added to the federal workforce turmoil over the weekend by demanding federal workers explain their recent accomplishments or risk getting fired.
I thought it was great, because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government.
The president says Musk was simply asking workers if they're actually working.
So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist.
Federal workers are suing over Elon Musk's weekend threat to fire them if they don't explain their accomplishments. The suit is aimed at trying to block mass layoffs, including any related to the email sent by the federal government's Personnel Management Office over the weekend, saying employees needed to detail 5 things they did last week. The email followed a social media demand from Musk, who said a refusal to respond would be taken as a resignation. The suit says that violates federal law. Musk has been echoing President Trump's claims that remote workers don't actually work.
Nobody's going to work from home. They're going to be going out, they're going to play tennis, they're going to play golf, they're going to do a lot of things. They're not working.
Still, many key agencies led by the president's loyalists told workers not to respond to the email.
I think everyone thought it was a pretty ingenious idea. We have to find out where these people are. Who are they?
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Trump administration continues talks with Russia over the war in Ukraine. The president welcomed French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House to hear his thoughts on a path forward. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
In the first of 2 public appearances, Macron sat next to President Trump in the Oval Office following a video call they made together with other G7 leaders on the 3rd anniversary of the start of the war in Ukraine. Trump was asked if he would consider going to Moscow soon to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
But no, at the appropriate time, I would go to Moscow. I think the war could end soon.
How soon?
Within weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah, I think so, right? Don't you think so? I'd like to have you. I think we could end it within weeks if we're smart.
At one point, there appeared to be an area of disagreement between the 2 leaders. Macron stated he believed Ukraine should be compensated for the cost of fighting the war before Europe or the U.S.
Because they are the ones who have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
And after Trump reiterated his belief that, unlike the U.S., Europe would get paid back for the money he says they loaned to Ukraine, Macron interrupted the president, touched him on the knee, and corrected him.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the U.S., loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging.
Trump said Putin would agree to European peacekeepers in Ukraine as part of a peace deal. A couple hours later, at a joint news conference, Trump indicated his administration is charting a different path than his predecessor.
I ran against a very foolish foreign policy establishment, and their recklessness has led to the death of many, many people.
The president again claimed the war would have never happened if he was president, and he said he was pleased Macron understood the costs of securing peace should be shared by Europe and not the United States alone. John Stolnis, Washington.
Closing migrant shelters in New York City. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Tuesday weather on America in the Morning. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The latest storm system to be moving into the Northeast will be less impactful than previous systems to move into the region. It will certainly be arriving under milder conditions with a mixture of rain and snow showers through New York into northern New England and rain showers farther south from eastern Ohio and northern West Virginia to start the day, and then moving into Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southeast New York, and then southern New England by the afternoon. Some colder air will be moving in behind this system, allowing for a little bit more snow in northern New England tonight. In the northwest, the storm will be winding down today as the main part of the system continues to move inland. There will still be some snow in the Cascades, and that will expand into the northern Rockies, and there could still be several inches of snow. And a portion of this feature will race into the northern plains late today with some showers developing in North Dakota and northern South Dakota, and then shifting into Minnesota late today and Wisconsin tonight. Some snow could also mix in late in the day and tonight in parts of northern Minnesota into northern Wisconsin. The storm that moved through Florida will be winding down as well, with the heaviest rain moving into the Bahamas. Some areas had more than 3 inches of rain as this moved through, but this morning there'll be just some lingering showers. Otherwise, a good portion of the nation from California eastward through the Central Plains into most of the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast will be largely dry today with a decent amount of sunshine, and temperatures, a lot of the areas will be above the historical average. In the southwest, portions of West Texas as well will be hitting in the 80s and even 90s, and there could be some records that fall. That's the weather across America. It's going to be a nice day in Paducah, Kentucky with some sunshine and a high of 62. Portsmouth, New Hampshire will have a few more clouds and a late day shower and a high of 47. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The mayor of New York City is closing a migrant shelter in Midtown Manhattan as part of his pledge to close dozens of shelters in the city by June. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following the story.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams announcing the shutdown of the Migrant Intake Center at the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. He says the closure comes as what he once referred to as a crisis is improving. Mayor Adams has been accused of changing his tune on asylum seekers and illegal migrants to appease the Trump administration. Those accusations got louder when federal corruption charges against the mayor were recently dropped by the DOJ.
We saw 7 straight months of decline long before the president came into office. And we believe it's a combination of what we have done here and some changes at the border.
Mayor Adams and his office says the migrant center at the Roosevelt has seen more than 173,000 migrants since it opened. It initially averaged 4,000 migrants a week, but has since dropped to the current average of about 350 migrants per week. The city of New York, meanwhile, suing to recover $80 million in FEMA money that was seized by the federal government because of concerns surrounding criminal activity at the Roosevelt. I'm Clayton Neville.
Vivek Ramaswamy helped Donald Trump win the White House and was one of the founders of the Office of Government Efficiency. Now the multi-millionaire is kicking off a campaign to become the next governor of Ohio. With more, here's Jennifer King.
The Ohio governor's race is heating up with biotech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy jumping into the 2026 race. Republican Governor Mike DeWine is term limited. The Cincinnati-born former presidential candidate joins the Republican primary field a month after the former Lieutenant Governor John Husted was appointed to fill Vice President J.D. Vance's Senate seat. Husted's backers will be looking to switch their allegiance. Other Republican candidates include Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost and Heather Hill, a black entrepreneur from Appalachia. On the Democratic side is Dr. Amy Acton, the former state health director. Ramaswamy has been promoting his ties to President Trump, but dropped out of the Department of Government Efficiency initiative on Trump's first day. He's received endorsements from Ohio's Treasurer and Secretary of State. I'm Jennifer King.
Jitters in the market over tariffs when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks. Tech names continued their sell-off. The Nasdaq down more than 200 points yesterday. Palantir and Facebook parent Meta dropped. But the Dow was up 33 points, led higher by shares of Nike. President Trump losing the stock market war to the rest of the world. Since Election Day, European, Chinese, and emerging markets have all dramatically outperformed the U.S., as measured by the S&P 500 index.
The Dow and the Nasdaq now in negative territory since Inauguration Day. Jim, in fact, since Inauguration Day, the U.S. is the worst performing G7 ETF.
The money is being made in Europe. Overnight, you come in, it's like, holy cow, they're doing pretty good. Japan's good. Thank you, Warren Buffett, for verifying that. China, obviously, on fire, plus 20%. And us, well, people are very confused, particularly in the Russell 3000, which is a small business. They're just certainly less happy about things. And they're taking out that lack of happiness on the market.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer with CNBC's Carl Quintanilla. Investors not just jittery over things like tariffs. Average Americans are too in the newest University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, and you can brace yourself for more volatility.
Michigan said, hey, people are mentioning the tariffs. So it's really interesting to me that the tariffs are so pervasive out there in the economy among the general public. We see them having an effect on businesses right now. 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, tariffs were threatened and then they didn't come. So now we're facing additional deadlines in March and April. So the process looks to be having an effect on the economy here.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. Do you feel like you don't work very hard or very long?
The main worry right now, actually, in my opinion, is the number of hours people are working. Right. So if you look at the hours work number from payrolls, that's my main area of concern right now.
MetLife's Drew Mattis on CNBC.
It's so low. The last time we saw this outside of COVID, the unemployment rate was 7%.
In January of 2021, when President Trump left office after his first term, the unemployment rate was 6.3%. After 4 years of job creation, it's now hovering around 4%. But if you're not putting in your 40 hours a week, watch out.
Firms have been hoarding workers in a very aggressive way, and they don't have a lot for them to do, so they're working them less. And that means they're more vulnerable to layoffs.
Forget about eggs. Cattle prices at another record high. The U.S. has its smallest herd since the 1960s, just as demand is rising. Beef prices have been rising faster than overall inflation. Bankrupt Party City will close its remaining stores by the end of this week. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Home Depot. We get the latest on home prices and consumer confidence.
Very good. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, court clash over DoorDash after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Grammy Award-winning singer and R&B legend Roberta Flack has passed away at the age of 88. Julie Walker looks back at her career.
Killing me softly with his song. singer Roberta Flack's hits like Killing Me Softly with his song and The First Time I Ever Saw Your Face made her one of the top recording artists of the 1970s and an influential performer long after. She died Monday at 88 at home surrounded by family, says her publicist.
The first time.
The classically trained pianist won back-to-back Grammys for both songs in the 70s. A gospel fan as a child, she was so talented a piano player at age 15 she received a full scholarship to Howard University. In 2022, Flack announced she had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and could no longer sing. I'm Julie Walker.
A settlement has been reached in a court case involving the delivery app DoorDash. Lisa Dwyer reports it's centered around delivery drivers getting stiffed on tips.
The food delivery app, DoorDash, will pay almost $17 million to settle claims that it unfairly used customer tips to subsidize the wages of its delivery workers in New York, rather than let drivers keep the tips on top of their guaranteed pay. Attorney General Letitia James says that DoorDash also did not make it clear to customers that their tips were being used to offset worker wages. James says the company used the wage model between May 2017 and September 2019. DoorDash says it's happy to resolve the suit, but believes that DoorDash properly represented how Dashers were paid at that time, but noted that the old pay model is no longer in use. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A federal judge chimes in on the ban issued by the Trump administration to the Associated Press. I'm Clayton Neville.
United Nations adopts a resolution demanding Russia immediately withdraw troops from Ukraine.
This is a moment of truth.
I'm Julie Walker.
A late Monday night of budget bill negotiations will now segue into a late Tuesday night and a key House vote. I'm Richard Johnson.
Flight frights for Delta and American Airlines. Then 2 cases the Supreme Court declined to hear.
Starbucks is laying off more than 1,000 corporate workers. I'm Ed Donahue.
There's been a big announcement for the future of DC movies and television. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Chamber of Commerce forecast for most areas today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
A good portion of the nation from California eastward through the Central Plains into most of the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast will be largely dry today with a decent amount of sunshine, and temperatures in a lot of the areas will be well above the historical average. In the Southwest and portions of West Texas, they'll be hitting the 80s and even 90s today, and places like Midland, Texas or Palm Springs, California could reach or exceed their record highs for the day, even as far north as Sioux Falls, South Dakota, after a record-breaking low last week, could come close to their record high of 63 this afternoon. There are some storms across the northern states today. In the northwest, we'll have a storm winding down. In the main part of the system will be moving inland. There will still be some snow in the Cascades this morning that will expand into the northern Rockies, and there could still be several inches of snow from that. A portion of this feature will race eastward into the northern plains late today with some showers developing in North Dakota and northern South Dakota. This will shift into Minnesota late today and Wisconsin tonight, and some snow can mix in late today and tonight in parts of northern Minnesota into northern Wisconsin. The storm system that moved through Florida will be winding down with the heaviest rain moving into the Bahamas. Some areas had more than 3 inches of rain, but just some lingering showers around today. And the latest storm system to move into the Northeast will be less impactful than previous systems to move into the region. It will certainly arrive under milder conditions with a mixture of rain and snow showers through New York into northern New England and rain showers farther south from eastern Ohio into northern West Virginia and then continuing into Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southeast New York, and then southern New England by the end of the day. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A federal judge has weighed in on the Trump administration's decision to bar the Associated Press from the Oval Office. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden denied the AP's request to restore its access to the Oval Office and to Air Force One, also events held at the White House. So the ban stands for now. The AP suing the Trump administration, but the president insisting that AP reporters will not have access if they don't acknowledge his recent name change of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
The Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only essentially it's primarily the Associated Press, and I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America.
The AP's lawsuit names 3 senior Trump aides, including Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and claims the ban violates the First Amendment by trying to dictate the language used in reporting.
If we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
Leavitt pointed to other outlets and companies that have made the change.
Apple has recognized that. Google has recognized that. Pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America. And it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
The judge set an expedited schedule in the case to consider a longer-term order. I'm Clayton Neville.
The United States openly clashed with European allies at the United Nations, failing to get the UN to approve its Ukraine resolution, but did move forward with a different one that passed calling for Russia to pull out of Ukrainian territory. This comes as President Trump has not ruled out going to Moscow to meet with Vladimir Putin. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
And we hope that the United States will continue support, like all the partners. All the partners do it, and we need also not to lose this unity between Europe and United States.
I think the war can end soon.
Well, how soon?
Within weeks.
Weeks?
I'd like to have you. I think we could end it within weeks if we're smart. If we're not smart, it'll keep going, and we'll keep losing young, beautiful people that shouldn't be dying.
The United Nations adopts a resolution demanding Russia immediately withdraw troops from Ukraine, but it's not legally binding. It was opposed by the U.S., which had its own resolution calling for a swift end to the war, but never mentioning Russia's invasion. That resolution failed. Here's U.S. Deputy Ambassador Dorothy Shea before the General Assembly vote.
Neither these amendments nor the resolution offered by Ukraine will stop the killing.
Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Mariana Betsa also spoke to the GA.
Today marks 3 years from the full-scale invasion by the Russian Federation. 3 years of Ukraine's resistance, 3 years of Ukraine's preservation, 3 years of Ukraine's fight and heroism. This is a moment of truth, a historic moment.
And she says her country is exercising its right to self-defense.
If Ukraine will be in EU and in NATO in closest years, of course it will help us very much. And I think that they will not come back if we will have strong army and strong allies and strong unity.
I'm Julie Walker.
The federal government's current stopgap budget expires on March 14th, and House Speaker Mike Johnson is trying to find the votes in his own caucus to pass the Republican spending resolution, what President Trump has labeled the Big Beautiful Bill. More from correspondent Rich Johnson.
Some Republicans who've been on the fence over the measure now say they may be coming around, despite Johnson's insistence that he won't make any changes, even to ease fears that the spending plan will lead to deep cuts in Medicaid, the health insurance that covers millions of low-income Americans. Early Monday, New York Republican Nicole Malliotakis told Bloomberg that she's not made a final decision.
I still need to get a better understanding and some assurances that we're not going to have impacts on Medicaid recipients in my district and the hospitals that I represent that are already struggling, safety net hospitals, and any cuts that could affect them.
But after a closed-door meeting late last night, Malliotakis said some of her concerns were met and that the bill is moving in the right direction. That is not the direction that the top Democrat on the House Rules Committee, Jim McGovern of Massachusetts, wants to see. He calls it a betrayal of the middle class.
There is nothing America first about this budget. This is about gutting programs that help everyday people so that Republicans can give more handouts to billionaires and special interests.
But the Rules Committee advanced the bill last night, setting up a full House vote tonight on the plan that would cut $2 trillion in federal spending over the next decade, that to help pay for tax cuts and more defense spending. But for the moment, Medicaid remains in the spotlight after lawmakers like Democrat Mary Gay Scanlon of Pennsylvania said people she talks to back home are scared.
I've got over 100,000 people in my district who get their health care through Medicaid, as do almost all of my colleagues across the aisle. But people are scared with good reason. And despite the verbal gymnastics that we're hearing, oh, this resolution doesn't cut, that's what it sets the stage to do.
In the meantime, lawmakers continue to trade offers in the effort to finalize a budget resolution that reflects President Trump's desires. But the longer they talk, the greater the chance they'll have to extend the current stopgap spending bill, the one that President Biden signed in November. I'm Rich Johnson.
AI reducing Google profits in a case now in court when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. A scary scene at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport when a Delta Airlines flight was evacuated after a smoky haze filled the cabin. Delta Flight 876 was in the air, heading to Columbia, South Carolina, before it returned to Atlanta. Landing evacuation slides were deployed. None of the passengers were injured. And frightening moments aboard an American Airlines flight when passengers looked out their windows and saw fighter jets on either side of the plane. Flight 292 departed Kennedy Airport in New York and was destined for New Delhi, India, when it suddenly diverted to Rome after what the airline deemed a possible security issue. Italian Air Force fighter jets were dispatched and escorted the plane to Rome. Fox News reports the plane diverted due to a bomb threat, which was said to be a hoax as no bomb was found. Back here at home in Illinois, the trial of a man accused in a deadly Independence Day parade shooting in suburban Chicago is soon to get underway. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The man accused of opening fire on a suburban Chicago Independence Day parade and killing 7 people is about to start trial nearly 3 years after the attack. Jury selection starts after several delays. The erratic behavior of the defendant, Robert Crimo III, has raised questions about what to expect at trial. Crimo is charged with 21 counts of first-degree murder, 48 counts of attempted murder, and 48 counts of aggravated battery in the 2022 shooting. He has pleaded not guilty. The trial is expected to last about a month, with testimony from survivors and police. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Pink slips for coffee house employees. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Starbucks is laying off more than 1,000 corporate workers. Starbucks baristas, roasting, and warehouse staff are not included in the layoffs. New CEO Brian Nichols says the size and structure of the corporate workforce at Starbucks has too many layers and slows communications. Nichols was brought in to streamline operations. He says workers getting laid off will be told in the next day or so. Starbucks hired Nichols last fall to turn around sluggish sales. He has said he wants to improve service times, especially during the morning rush, and reestablish stores as community gathering places. Items are being cut from the menu, and Starbucks is experimenting with its ordering algorithms to better handle its mix of mobile, drive-through, and in-store orders. I'm Ed Donahue.
Justice Clarence Thomas issued a scathing dissent after the Supreme Court declined to hear a case challenging free speech around abortion clinics. In his 7-2 ruling, with only Thomas and Justice Samuel Alito dissenting, the court held in place that restrictions on speech-related conduct is constitutional because they regulate the places where some speech might occur, but not the actual speech itself. The case was brought by a pro-life group against the town of Carbondale, Illinois, which banned protesters from getting within 8 feet of patients at the clinic without their consent. In a separate case, the justices also declined to take up a challenge to Tennessee's law restricting some drag show performances. Shifting gears to tech, Google Artificial Intelligence is heading to court over claims of unfair practices relating to how AI presents previews of websites, profiting without paying for search ads. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
An online education publishing company is suing Google AI, claiming that they're impeding their ability to make a profit online. The Chegg Corporation offers textbook rentals, homework, and tutoring, and has claimed that Google is co-opting their ability to keep users on their own site, erasing any financial incentive to publish. They further allege that Google AI overviews have caused a drop in visitors and subscribers, and the company is now considering a sale or take-private transaction. Google spokesperson Jose Castaneda called the claims meritless. Chegg's shares have closed to $1.57, down more than 98% from its peak in 2021. Nathan Schultz, CEO, said that Google is profiting off the company's content for free and that it's about the digital publishing industry and the future of internet search. At issue is Google coercing the publishers to let AI crawl their site for free, whereas internet search allows the publishers to receive the search traffic to their sites and get paid for the advertising exposure. For more, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Tuesday Sports is in on America in the Morning. Here's Robert Workman.
NBA Monday, the Timberwolves came back from a 25-point deficit to tip the Thunder 131-128 in overtime. Jaden McDaniels had 27 for Minnesota, but Coach Chris Finch said his reserves made the difference.
It was clear at times like we were a little empty in the gas tank and just couldn't get anything kind of established. But the rhythm of the game changed, when those guys off the bench brought it up.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 39 for OKC. Bulls ran out to a 50-point lead and slammed the Sixers 142-110. Something had to give. Chicago came in on a 6-game losing streak. Philly has now dropped 8 straight. Pistons won their 7th in a row, beating the Clippers 32 for Cade Cunningham. That's Detroit's longest winning streak in 10 years. Nuggets nailed the Pacers. Denver back on its horse after having a 9-game winning streak snapped over the weekend. Zach LaVine had a season-high 42 to lead the Kings over the Hornets. Wizards beat the Nets to end a 6-game skid. Wins for the Hawks and the Blazers. Latest college basketball polls, Auburn still on top in both, a unanimous choice among the writers, while 2 of the 30 coaches took Duke instead. The Blue Devils second in both surveys, ahead of Florida, Houston, and Tennessee. The 4th-ranked Cougars avenged their only Big 12 loss of the season last night with a win at number 10, Texas Tech. Hockey, the Jets shivved the Sharks 2-1 in overtime. Josh Morrissey tied the game in the last half-minute of regulation. Then Mark Scheifele won it a minute and a half into OT, because once you're a Jet all the way. And these Jets have the best record in the NHL. Also, the Kings scored 4 times in the third to down the Golden Knights 5-2. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Like husband, like wife. Potential candidate in the Florida gubernatorial race. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Pope Francis remains in critical condition, but he seems to be improving slightly as he has now been in a Rome hospital for 11 days. An update on the pontiff's condition from correspondent Lawrence Brooks.
The Vatican says Pope Francis is awake and is continuing his treatment for a complex lung infection. The Vatican has said the night passed well, the Pope slept and is resting. It added the 88-year-old is continuing to feed himself without the need for artificial or liquid nutrition and that he was in good spirits. Late Sunday, doctors reported that blood tests showed early, slight kidney insufficiency that was under control. They said Francis remained in a critical condition, but that he hadn't experienced any further respiratory crises since Saturday. Francis, who has pneumonia in both lungs, was receiving high flows of supplemental oxygen. Doctors have said Francis's condition is touch and go, given his age, fragility, and pre-existing lung disease. I'm Lawrence Brooks.
The on-again, off-again relationship between President Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis could be on a collision course again. The president just days ago announced he's backing Florida Congressman and ardent Trump supporter Byron Donalds in the next gubernatorial election for the Sunshine State, despite the fact that Donalds has not formally announced his candidacy. DeSantis has been talking up another potential candidate. His wife, Casey DeSantis, is a cancer survivor and former TV news anchor who's not held political office before, but has been seen constantly at the side of her husband, and he says would be a formidable candidate. Ron DeSantis took a swipe at Donalds, telling reporters that the congressman hasn't been a part of any of the congressional victories the GOP has had. We'll keep you posted. America in the Morning continues. There's been some changes to the films and TV shows in the D.C. lineup. Kevin Carr has details.
On Monday afternoon, James Gunn and Peter Safran offered an update on the projects in the DC universe.
Crypto. Home. Take me home.
The flagship release is Superman, which Gunn directed, due in theaters this summer. The next film in the pipeline is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Pre-production of some films, like James Mangold's Swamp Thing, have been dialed back. Others have been put on the fast track. James Watkins' Clayface, based on a script by Mike Flanagan, will be a body horror piece featuring the origin of the Batman villain. And Luca Guadagnino is working on Sergeant Rock.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only going to get worse for you.
Matt Reeves' sequel to The Batman poses some continuity issues, so DC is likely to have a different version of The Dark Knight for the upcoming film Brave and the Bold. On the TV side, Gunn's Suicide Squad spin-off Peacemaker is getting a second season this August on Max, and an animated Green Lantern series is in the works. TV projects put on hold include the Viola Davis headlined Waller and one about fan-favorite character Booster Gold. The overall plan includes 2 live-action films, 1 animated film, 2 live-action series, and 2 animated series each year, all working in a variety of genres. Finally, Gunn teased an Avengers Endgame story arc, but he said you wouldn't have to watch everything for all the others to make sense. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.